I made a costly mistake this month, September 2020. I'm saying September 2020 because I don't know when you'll be watching this, and it almost broke me. I'm here to share with you what I've learned through the mistakes. If you're interested in that, then keep on watching. You're welcome back to Time Out with B. My name is Lesson Ive, and on this channel we talk about life coaching, faith, and everything self-development. If you're interested in that, then hit the subscribe button and click on the bell so you will not miss out on any episode. On today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the lesson I've learned from my mistake. And while I was going through my losses and all the bad mistakes and bad decisions I made, and I was bearing the consequences, I immediately wanted to read something that would change my perspective. Because as a believer in self-development and constant learning, I know that as much as we learn from our success, there are lessons to learn from our losses and our mistakes. And that was what prompted me to go to Google and search. And it's very funny because I love John Maxwell. Like, I've been reading John Maxwell books since I was a teenager. I've never come across this particular book. And that day, after being in so much distress and going through every mistake I've made in my head, feeling bad for myself, I just went to Google and browse. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And immediately this book by John C. Maxwell popped up. And I had to tell a friend, do you have this book? And she said, yes, don't worry, I'll send it to you. And I read that book, and the book has changed my perspective. With the help of this book, I'll be sharing with you some things I've learned, because I know that life is not a bed of roses. We are bound to make mistakes as individuals, and there are some things I've actually learned in this book that's helped me deal with my loss and my mistake and my errors that I would love to share. Because on this platform, we are all about sharing and learning and growing and developing ourselves. And so the first thing I learned and I would love to share is that life is difficult. Life is difficult. Like my people will say, this life no balance. For real. I know most of us say it, but it's really hard for us to believe that life is actually difficult. Life is unfair. Life is just not balanced for everybody. The truth is, there's no easy road to success. Even the Bible says that in this world you will experience difficulty, but be of good cheer. I would put that Bible verse somewhere on the screen when I discover it. And the truth is, once we accept the fact that life is hard, that life is difficult, we begin to grow. We begin to understand that every problem is an opportunity to grow. Sooner you start accepting that fact, the better for you. The more intentional you are about your growth, the more it does not weigh on you when you make a terrible mistake and you start wallowing in self-pity. That is one thing this period has taught me. That part that I learned in this book, that life is difficult and the sooner you accept it, the better for you, led me to the second thing I learned, that sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You don't win every time in life. It takes night and day to make a full day. It takes rainy season and dry season to make a full year. So you can't just have rainy season throughout and you expect the year to be complete. And that is a very hard pill to swallow for most of us that are used to winning, quote and unquote. We are used to things going our way. We are used to having life easy or things working out. You cannot have it win-win every single time. And that is one thing I have learned. When I realized that, my whole thinking changed. When I came to a point of realization that I don't have to win every time, in short, I will not win every time. Sometimes I'm going to lose, and that loss is going to hit me so badly. Then I learned my third lesson, my third most important lesson, which is it takes humility to grow in spite of our mistake. Experience is not the best teacher. Evaluated experience is, and that just made everything make sense to me. It makes me realize, and that was the main reason I went to Google to search for the book, because I'm like, oh, I cannot lose this badly and not learn something from it. And I realized that it takes humility. It takes humility to realistically sit down and evaluate the situation instead of just casting blame, because there are several other things you can blame. When things go wrong, you can blame, oh, I was given the wrong information, oh, this other team member did not play their part, oh, I didn't know this, oh, I was not exposed to this, oh, that. There are several things you could blame, and when that happened to me, I was just thinking, what did I do wrong? Oh, I checked this thing very well. But when I sat down to really evaluate what happened, I saw my own mistakes. I saw how I was hasty to make decision. I saw how I did not wait a day before, how I made decision in the moment. I saw how my unresolved feelings and emotion played a role in the mistake I made, in the losses I experienced. I saw things that are not visible when you are so consumed, that it takes you to really sit down and evaluate. And I'm going to be giving you some questions I sincerely asked myself. Number one, what went wrong? That was the number one question I sat down. I legit sat down, brought out pen and started writing. What went wrong? The second question I asked myself was, where did it go wrong? What happened? At what point did it go wrong? Where did I make the mistake? Why did it go wrong? I had to ask myself, why exactly did this go wrong? Another thing I asked myself was, how did I contribute to making it go wrong? Another thing I asked myself is, what can I learn from this? What is the lesson this is teaching me? What can I learn from this? To my last question, which was not the least question, because till now I'm still asking myself question and question again. How will I apply what I've learned? That's all. So I start thinking, oh, this thing I've learned now, how will I apply it in the next decision, or when next I experience loss, or when next I make mistake? How will I apply it? Most times, whenever we experience losses, the end result, if properly maximized or evaluated, the end result is a place of maturity, is a place of knowledge. I saw a quote. It says, good people are good because they've come to a place of wisdom through failure. Sincerely, evaluated failure, evaluated experience, evaluated mistakes and losses result in a place of maturity. It's just like one of Maya Angelou's quotes that I love so much. Do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, you do better. I wrote that quote down in my ThinkPad, I think in February. And during this period, I went back to the quote, and it just made me stop beating up myself. It made me understand that you didn't know better. That was why you made that mistake. Now that you know better, I meant, if you now make the same mistake again, we should beat you. And that is a place of maturity. That is when you know that you've got into a place of maturity, when you've learned from your mistake and you've added knowledge and you've grown. And I love something John Maxwell said in his book. He said that maturity is the result of finding the benefit in the loss. Maturity is the result of finding the benefit in the loss. I would advise you to read this book. If you can buy it, buy it. And I have a gift for you guys in the description box below, so make sure you check it out. Yes, it's a surprise, so go check it out yourself. Because this book just changed my perspective. It changed the way I was viewing my problem and my mistakes. It gave me a different angle to it, which will not just break my spirit, but will build me up and build my mind up. And that was what happened. I love something else I saw on what maturity is. I'm going to read it out. It said, maturity is doing what you're supposed to be doing when you're supposed to be doing it, no matter how you feel. Maturity is the end result of mistakes. And that is what I learned. That it takes maturity to show up every single day, despite whatever you're going through. And that leads me to the fifth thing I learned through this mistake of mine. And the fifth thing I learned was Thanksgiving is the way out of every loss. Let me say it again. Thanksgiving is the way out of every loss. As ironic as it might sound, the Bible says that we should give thanks in everything. I remember telling my friend, chatting my friend up and telling him, seriously, at this phase, I don't know how to be grateful. And he told me the best way to be grateful is to just say thank you. In my mind, like, what is this one saying? I came to a place of understanding that I am not grateful for the silver lining. When I am grateful, I see the silver lining. Like the silver lining appeared due to the fact that I am grateful. The moment you start saying thank you, that moment your thinking changes, your focus changes, your perspective changes, and you start seeing the silver lining. This is what I've learned. I know we've all experienced one loss or the other, and I would love to hear what has helped you deal with your loss and your mistakes at every facet of life. Please drop your comments in the comment section below. I would love to hear. This is where we come to learn and to share and to grow together. The bottom line of my whole story, for how many minutes this would be, is that sometimes we win, and when we are winning, it's like, oh God, every single thing is perfect. It looks like we are angels and we cannot just make mistakes. It looks like we are data that cannot go wrong once we collect it appropriately. It looks like we know how to do it best, or we are intelligent. It's really beautiful to win. But the truth is, as long as you are in this world, sometimes we lose. And it is hard for us to learn lesson from our losses. And that brings me to the third lesson, that sometimes we learn and it's left to you, either you will stay stuck in your loss phase, in your mistake phase, in the losing phase, and not graduate and not move to the learning phase. Anytime we think about our mistake and our losses, I want us to think about the lessons we learned. I want us to think about how we've grown, how we've so much matured. And don't forget that now that you know better, you do better. Check out my other videos right here and right here. You will love them. See you next week. Bye bye.